Lack of agency processes and structure is one of the top 5 problems facing insurance agencies today. That's based on our poll with over 6,000 agents. 6,000 agents responded to that poll, and this was at the time I'm recording this. That was the number 2 response. Number 1 was lack of leads, which we did a recording on last week, and that's available. But lack of agency processes and structure. Well, guess what? Today, I'm going to show you how to fix that problem with lack of agency processes and structure. My name is Dr. Billy Williams. I'm president of the Williams Family Investment Group and Inspire Nation Business Mentoring, the insurance industry's #1 and best insurance agent mentoring and coaching program. Thank you so much for joining us for this 30-minute lunch and learn. Here's the deal on agency processes. There are 23 core insurance agency processes that happen in a successful insurance agency. But we're not going to focus on 23. We're going to focus on 8 main areas of the insurance agency operations. And those are marketing and prospecting, quoting and data entry, sales, service, claims, retention, billing and accounting, and admin support. All of that flows into one job. We have one job as an insurance agent, and that's to offer the coverage that will best protect a customer's quality of life should they ever have to file a claim. So when we talk about processes, structure, order, task, it doesn't matter. Everything leads to that one result, to offer the coverage that will best protect a customer's quality of life should they ever have to file a claim. The first step to putting good processes and good tasks and good workflows in your agency is to follow the Inspire a Nation S4TS method of designing effective insurance agency processes. What does S4TS stand for? What's that acronym mean? The first S is standards. These are our coverage recommendations, and these are staff actions and reactions whenever something happens. The first T is time blocking. If you don't make the time to create wealth, all of your time is spent fighting off poverty. We have to block off time for key performance indicators, block off time for those processes and tasks that are the most valuable to the agency. The second T is tasks that generate revenue. Guys, if you don't know what makes dollars, then whatever you're doing doesn't make sense. So we have to know what tasks generate revenue, and we have to block off time for those tasks. The next T is technology tools and automation. And most agencies use less than 40% of the capabilities of their technology. The final T is training and role play. If your team avoids role play, they're winging it when they're talking to customers and prospects. That's not a process. The S, the final S, is spot checking. That's where we have our accountability, and that's where we determine if we need to train or retrain on something. Remember, people only respect what you inspect. So throughout this lunch and learn, we're going to base everything on the S4TS method of designing effective insurance agency processes. It takes 4 types of staff to operate your agency: technology, workflows such as automation and manual workflows, human staff that actually works the technology, works the automation, works the processes, and has the conversation with the customer, and then processes that guide the other 3 staff types. And see, I think that's what we forget a lot of times when we're talking about our processes. We think processes are just people, or processes are just conversation, or processes are just something that we write down. No, processes involve all 4 types of staff that it takes to grow and build an agency: technology, automation, humans, and processes. The first thing we need to do after we understand those 4 types of staff is we need to get a list of possible processes and possible tasks. So we can say all day long, I want to put agency processes. I want to bump up my processes. My people suck at processes. But at the end of the day, what are their choices? What are the choices that they have to choose from to say, this should be in your workflow, and this should be in your day, and this should be in your process? So the first thing we have to do is come up with our list of possible tasks and processes. And we do that by using the Inspire Nation Staff Activity Checklist. So let me go over to the checklist. What we've done is we sat down, and now if you're not a member, obviously you don't have access to this, but you can still make your version of this. So we sat down and said, okay, let's go through everything that happens in an agency, and let's pick out the things that are most likely to happen, or the things that happen the most. So we looked at non-licensed staff activities and said, what are the tasks that our non-licensed people do? Do they discuss billing? Do they communicate with the carrier? Do they pull renewal audits? Do they complete quote sheets? Do they do fact finders? Do they do the prospecting and the marketing? What is it that they do? And so we wrote those out. And then we said, whenever we put a task in place, there always has to be 3 levels of accountability. Who is it assigned to? Who's going to spot check it to make sure that it's being done right? And if we have to outsource it to somebody, who are we going to outsource it to? So we looked at non-licensed staff activities, marketing, prospecting, quoting, sales, service, admin, new customer, retention, technology. We looked at all those different things, claims, and said, these are the choices that we're going to start with, because that's what you have to do. You just can't say, I need a process. You have to say, what are the options and what are the choices to be able to put into my process? So that's the first thing that you have to do. And we use our staff activity checklist for that. If you guys need to find this that are actual members, go into the video and document library. Let's come over here and just type in the word. You can type in activity, you can type in staff, you can type in process, you can type in whatever. So we're just going to type in activity, since it's the staff activity checklist. And we're going to go staff activity checklist KPIs. But let's say I didn't want to use that word, and I just wanted to say, Billy, tell me some processes. Just type in the word process and let it scroll down. And you're going to go to module 6, staff activity checklist, KPIs, agency processes. Once you're there at module 6, and again, members, you should go through the first 6 modules anyway. Those are the vowels of our system. When I say vowel, V-O-W-E-L, right? Those are the vowels of our system. Like the alphabet has 26 letters, but there are only A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y, right? There are only 6 vowels that you have to have in order to make an English word. Same thing here. If you go through our 6 processes first, you'll be able to build whatever you want to build, because you'll have the foundation. So we're going to scroll down to our completion tracker. Here it says download the staff activity checklist and start identifying and assigning KPI tasks and automation. So we'll click right there, come to our staff activity checklist, and that's where we get our staff activity checklist from. So now we want to go through that staff activity checklist and pick the task that we most likely want in our process. Next thing you need to do, and this is going to be really hard for a lot of agencies, you need to track current staff activity for 2 weeks, and you're going to use our staff activity tracking checklist for that. You're going to track it for 2 weeks. Why 2 weeks instead of a week or a few days? Because here's what's going to happen. Your staff does not want to be held accountable. Your staff has already figured out what they need to do. See, everything is a process already. That's what you guys may not realize. There are processes that are happening in your agency, but a lot of times they're like wild horses. You don't control them. They're just running around, but they're getting the job done. Now you're coming in and saying, I actually want to round up these wild horses and give them some kind of structure. Well, guess what? Those wild horses don't want to be round up. They don't want to be put into a corral, right? They don't want to be lassoed and rode. So what happens? You tell your staff, hey, we're going to track your activities for the next week. We're going to say 1 week. What are they going to say? Oh, this isn't a good week to do that. I got a bunch of stuff coming up. This isn't a good week for that. I'm going to be out Thursday because I'm sick. This isn't a good week for that because I feel like I have a headache that's coming on and I won't be here Wednesday and Thursday. They don't want to be tracked. So that's why we tell you to track for 2 weeks. Some agencies, I've had to have that tracking for a month before I could really get a real picture of what was happening. What will happen is that you'll be shocked that your people can't or won't complete a checklist that should take 2 minutes. And you'll see in a second, it should literally take 2 minutes to complete, but they won't fill it out. Why? Because they're wild horses. I'm already getting the job done. I'm already issuing policies. I'm already filing claims. I'm already doing policy reviews. I'm already doing all this stuff, and it's happening. Why do you want to mess with it? Because you want to put it in a structure. You want to put it in an order. You want to be able to recreate it. You want to bring on new staff and train them. You want to be able to track and have reporting and know where your money's coming from and all those wonderful things. They don't want that. They just want to do their job every day. You're going to be shocked. We're going to ask you to do this little bitty form and just turn it in, and your people are they're going to buck that all that they can. So let's actually look at that form. This is the daily staff activity checklist. It's just a one-page form. Guys, don't try to track this in your computer system. I know all my techies online are going, oh, I'll just build a tracking system that's online that all I have to do is go in and that. Don't do it. Okay, don't. Some things just need to stay manual and easy. This is one of those things that needs to stay manual and easy. Don't get caught up in your own ego of, well, this will flow into this report and I will be able to look in one thing and see a pie chart that, guys, just take the damn sheet, look at it and see what Judy or Don or Bob or Sally or Chuck or whoever, just see what they're doing. So you take this and you ask them, guys, this is all I need you to do. I just need you to throw numbers in. Policies written today: auto, home, condo, general liability, workers' comp, commercial auto, life insurance, whatever. What policies did you write today? How many? All that is a number. How many of those did you write? And then you're going to come down, and this is where they're going to buck the system. Because you're going to say, prospecting done today. Now, they may be service people, but everyone in your agency should prospect. Let's get that straight. Everyone in your agency should prospect. What is prospecting? Prospecting is nothing more than looking for an opportunity to help someone to have the best coverage in case they have to file a claim. That's all prospecting is, whether that's prospecting to a person that's in your agency as a customer or prospecting to someone on the street or someone who calls in. It doesn't matter. It's all prospecting, right? So even your non-licensed people should still be able to look and see if a person has a policy weakness. Now, I prospected from this time to this time. I called the following list. Did they call a list? Maybe they didn't. Maybe they didn't call a list today, so there will be none. I made 37 calls today. I spoke to 12 people. I was told no or not interested 5 times. I prepared 4 auto quotes, 3 property quotes, 2 renters quotes, 1 commercial quote. I prepared 2 financial services quotes, right? Or I picked up 4 X dates today. So you're just going to ask them to fill this out. Why do I want these particular tasks instead of, hey, how many inbound payments did you take today? Because if you're following our training, when we take an inbound payment, we look for policy weaknesses. When we look for policy weaknesses, we mention policy weaknesses. When we mention policy weaknesses, we send confirmation emails that contain policy weakness wording. So we're always prospecting, always. But I want your people to realize they're not prospecting as much as they think they are, they're not doing as much as they think they're doing. So have them fill out this sheet. Guys, I'm warning you one last time. It's going to be like pulling teeth to get them to actually fill in these numbers because they don't want to be held accountable a lot of times. They definitely don't want it transparent that they are not doing the things that that you want them to do, and they don't want to feel like they're losing or they're not doing this right. Now, to make this sheet work, when you have your weekly training meetings, you need to make the information transparent. You really do. And I know that a lot of agents are going to buck this, and a lot of agents are going to say, no, there's no way I'm doing this. But you're talking about putting processes in your business. If you don't have communication and transparency, you don't have processes. Let me say that again. If you don't have communication and you don't have transparency, you don't have processes. You just have people doing stuff. Okay, they're doing it their own way. They're doing their thing. They're doing how they want to do it. So yeah, stuff is happening in your agency, but it's not a process. A process can be transferred to someone else. So I'm going to get off this one. Let's go back over here. So after 2 weeks, you have an idea of what your people are doing. Now comes the fun part. You know what task you want your people to do because you use your tracking sheet, right? You use your KPI sheet, your staff activity checklist. So you know what task, and when you're doing that checklist, you're not picking 900 tasks, you're picking 4 or 5 things that you want them to do, 4 or 5 key KPIs, right? That's another problem that a lot of people have when they're implementing a process. They want to do everything. So you go from 0 to 100. No, how about we go from 0 to 5, 0 to 10? Maybe 0 to 15 at the most. Let's get that done. And then we can go from 15 to 20, 15 to 30, all that kind of stuff. So don't go from 0 to 100. Pick 4 or 5 key tasks per role in the agency. Then we need to block off 4 sessions to actually implement the process or task. So let's say it's the endorsement process, right? And we go, we want to implement the 5 major steps of the endorsement process. Well, we're going to block off 4 sessions to do that. Session number 1, we're going to set up all the tools and templates that we're going to use in that process. And I'll show you as we go through our examples here toward the end, the endorsement process, new customer process, that I'll give you your list of tools and templates that you'll need to set up. But if you're not an Inspire Nation member, it's okay. Make sure you understand the tools and templates that you want to use in your process, right? Because you went through and picked from the list of the different tasks. That first hour may not involve anybody but your marketing assistant or your IT person or your key person who's setting up the tools and templates, whoever that is. It's not going to involve everybody. It's only going to involve the people setting up tools and templates. The next session involves everybody. The next session is when you actually do training and role play of the conversations and tools. That's why everything needs to get set up first, because if you bring your people into a role play session and half your stuff's not working, you just lost them. Okay, you're gonna spend all your time to, well, I thought we could send that email. Well, what happened over here to that text message? Well, did we get that template loaded? Are we using e-signature documents? He said, no, you just lost your training session. So get everything set up first and then train and role play on the second session. Now you're adding in the technology, the automation, you're adding in the conversations, everything. So we're gonna use an hour for that. On the third session is the day and time to implement the actual process. So you're going to train it. Let's say, again, it's the endorsement process. You're going to train it. And then you're going to say, guys, we're actually going to start doing this next Tuesday. That'll give them a day or two to kind of read over everything and make sure they're comfortable, make sure the technology is set up, the templates are set up, they know how to click the button, all that kind of stuff, right? They've had a chance to wing it on the conversation. They're going to screw it up the first 5 or 6 times they do it. It's okay. We expect that. As long as we're always headed toward our main job, which is offering the coverage that best protects a customer's quality of life, should they ever have to file a claim. I don't care if you screw up the wording. If the wording gets me to that end result, which is offer the coverage that best protects our customer's quality of life, should they ever have to file a claim, then so be it. We just screwed it up. Big deal. But we got to where we're trying to get to. So then you're going to pick your session on day 3 to start. And then on day 4, maybe this is 2 days later, a week later, whatever you choose, but it's the 4th session in implementing the process is when we come back and spot check. If you're not going to spot check, then don't even play about implementing a process. People only respect what is inspected. So if you're not going to spot check or assign someone else to spot check it, then it's not going to stick in your agency. And no, people cannot spot check themselves. Okay, that's crap. Somebody outside of that person needs to spot check that process. And then you'll determine after the spot check, do I need to retrain this? Is this process actually sticking? Do we need to go back and set up the technology differently? Do we need to go back and role play the conversations? Do we need to go back and throw the whole damn process out because it's not a good fit for our agency? You won't know that until you spot check and decide if you need to retrain. So again, you've blocked off your hours, you made sure that you've got all the tasks that you want to have. Now you're going to come in and you're actually going to try to implement those tools, training, the time, and then the spot checking. Remember, when you're implementing a process, there are 4 types of discipline that are involved in that, right? Self-discipline, accountability, automation and technology, and delegation and outsourcing. What does that mean? That means most people rely on self-discipline. The problem is self-discipline also relies on your emotions. So if you're in a bad emotional state, you're not going to be self-disciplined. That's why we need accountability. Someone else needs to be able to look at that. Automation and technology, obviously, that's why we set it up. And then let's say you set up your technology, you held the people accountable, and it's still not getting done, and it needs to get done. Maybe you need to delegate it. Maybe you need to outsource it to a company, or outsource it to a virtual assistant, or outsource it to someone else outside of the people that you gave it to. And now the question comes in, should you hire a virtual assistant? Because that's the big thing in the insurance industry right now, right? Should I hire a virtual assistant? Yes, if you're going to apply the S4TS method: standards, time, task, tools, training, and spot checking. If you're going to apply that, then you can hire a virtual assistant. In fact, inside the video and document library, you just type in virtual assistant. We tell you the first 11 tasks that your virtual assistant should be trained on. And I know you're saying, but Billy, I didn't hire them for that. I hired them to help me eliminate this. I hired them to help me do this. Well, guys, it's a common language. If I'm German and I go to Spain and I can speak no Spanish whatsoever, I'm going to have a very, very difficult time. But if I have some basics of Spanish, I can at least maneuver my way around Spain, right? It's the same thing here. These are the 11 tasks that will help your virtual assistants, your non-licensed people, even your licensed people. If they can do these 11 tasks, you now are all speaking a common language, and the agency will operate better, and processes and tasks and workflows will be better implemented because you're all speaking a common language. So I'm going to show you some quick examples of real-world processes. Let's go to the video and document library, and I'm going to type in endorsement up in your search box here. Endorsement. I'll just type in the first few letters, and I'm going to go to the endorsement process. And then on the endorsement process, I'm going to scroll down to the black sheets, because the black sheets are a summary of everything that we're really teaching throughout this block of training that we're doing. So the endorsement process: know our standards, look up by phone number, verify permission, verify the address, process the endorsement, look for a policy weakness, right? Once I point out the policy weakness, then I want to send out a confirmation email. So that's the process. Now you're probably saying, okay, that's pretty simple. How would I train that? Well, again, if you're an Inspire Nation member, we've already written out all of the processes for you, including all of the conversations. So these are the 10 steps of the endorsement process that we want to have in place. This is each step broken down, including the scripting for that particular step. Again, if you're not an Inspire Nation member, just create something like this on your own, but know that you need to apply the S4TS methodology in order to implement that process. So that's the endorsement process. Now let's go over to our new customer process. So I'm just going to type in new, and we'll look for the new customer onboarding process. Same thing, I'm going to go down to the black sheet. And this is the long version of the new customer process, like the deep detail version, but I'm just going to break it down this way because we break our new customer process down into 2 days. Day 1 is when I wrote you. Day 2 is when one of my team follows up a week or 10 days later or 14 days later to make sure that everything happened. And that's also when we cross-sell. That's when we get our decline coverage form. That's when we talk about life insurance and all those other things. If you split your new customer process into a 2-day process instead of I just wrote you, good luck, you'll find that you're going to get a whole lot more growth out of your book. And so that's our regular day 1, and this is our 10 to 14 day. And of course, we've written this out for you the same way that I showed you on the endorsement process. Now, last process I want to go over is let's go over the renewal process. So I'll just type in renew. And so we got policy renewals, policy review, account rounding, cross-selling, that it all falls under the same training for us. So let's scroll down. And again, I'm going to go to the black sheet. Now I could always go to the completion tracker, which is that little yellow box up top, and it'll take me to the different areas. But this is what I want to do. This is my pre-renewal best practices. And I'm going to come down here. Agency renewal process campaigns and tools. A VA or licensed staff member will pull the report. A VA looks at the agency standards. A licensed team member completes the Inspire Nation review form. So it's really broken down for you. But we're not here to actually talk about the specific processes. We're here to talk about how to get processes active in your agency. So let's go back over here. Those are just some examples because I wanted you to see this really should be a written out process. And if you follow the steps that we're asking you to, you can write this out. Now let's summarize. What are we looking at here? Build your processes and tasks around the 8 main areas of insurance agency operations. Apply the Inspire Nation S4TS method when implementing a process. Remember what they are: standards, time blocking, task, tools, training, and spot checking. It takes 4 types of staff to operate an agency: technology, automation, humans, and written processes. Make sure that you've accounted for all 4 of those types. Use the Inspire Nation staff activity checklist to select the main KPIs you want to focus on when you decide to put in the process that you want to put in. Track your team's current activities for 2 weeks. 2 weeks, not 1 week, 2 weeks, but don't be hurt when you don't get back what you think you're going to get back. Block off 4 individual sessions to implement a process, because you got to, again, use that S4TS methodology, and then always apply the S4TS method to all agency staff, including virtual assistants. Guys, that is how you get agency processes and structure inside of your agency. My name is Dr. Billy Williams. If you need additional help or more information, visit our website at www.inspireanation.org. That's www.inspireanation.org. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you on our next Lunch and Learn.